You can test a bike and push a bike as hard as you can, but there's a different level when you get between the tape. I feel like people think they can just kind of throw a motor in a bicycle and it'll work. That's definitely not the case here, and I'm glad that this bike is about something, and that's racing.
If it doesn't work for the fastest people in the world, then why bother?
We didn't want to just have an existing platform for suspension and put a motor and a battery on it and call it good. We really wanted to think about it in a way to make it better.
I think it's the first e-bike that's been built from the ground up as a race bike.
Why a race bike goes back to our history, right? So anytime we introduce a new technology, whether it's 303 technology or Switch Infinity, we always start with racing. And I think that's a great place to start because one, we're trying to build a bike for some of the best athletes in the world and in the most challenging terrain and conditions. And so if we can make a bike that can survive that and work really well under those conditions, then we're going to be successful.
Yes!
They're the best, test guinea pigs there are, because they're just trying to go fast. If they don't like it, they're going to tell you.
When I got into mountain biking, like everyone did, cross-country, downhill, even trials, slalom, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I enjoy as well, just like relearning what's possible and finding that new limit.
I think that's really leads to his great feedback. He's experienced on, say, the BMX bike or on the road side or on the cross-country side or on the downhill side, four-cross side.
How many bikes have I helped Yeti develop? I'm going to take a guess at probably at least 9 or 10. Sharing my feedback and talking with the engineers, like it's something that's super interesting to me. I love trying different things, and I like to think that I'm pretty particular about my stuff.
Perfect. Actually, it is. Sorry, it's like 23.8.
Jared does a great job communicating. He's one of the hardest workers that I know, and you have to be on board with him, or that's it. And luckily, our programs have just aligned.
The thinking is that if it performs for them, it's going to perform better for everybody, across the board. So we need that unfiltered opinion on things. We wanted a bike that rode light, but was still capable of smashing into things like a downhill bike.
We obviously knew that there's greater acceleration and there's greater mass. From there was then actually determining what linkage or system could actually solve and optimize for that difference in dynamics. So in order to have a great bike, you need to start with kinematics and the linkage, and that's really the driver. From an engineering side, it was a really fun problem to be like, all right, here's the system, you have free reign to do whatever you need, and in our mind was just making the best system that we could. So yeah, these guys here are the oldest. This would be linkages from our alloy mule that we did. This would have been back in like January of 2017 would have been these.
You sort of don't know exactly what to expect. You just sort of dive in and see how it goes.
The original mule was built quite a long time ago, so by today's standards, the geometry was a little dated. And it was also the first kick down the hill on how this much torque in a motor is going to affect your suspension.
It was pretty surprising in the raw form what they kind of slapped together their first go at it. Once you put a motor on a bicycle, it's kind of really hard to split those. It's not the motor, it's the bike. It's not the bike, it's the motor.
Some of our main goals with the e-bike were to really focus on traction.
When you look at some of the real early mules, they were very different. I mean, there's definitely been some things over the years that we've tried and it just hasn't worked out at all.
The way that the e-assisted bikes climb is just so much different than your regular pedal bike that you found that small bump compliance for that climbing traction was super critical.
With each iteration of the mule, we're really learning something new and then ultimately trying to take those learnings and apply it to the final product. And so then it can kind of get into the details, as it matters even more so on a 6-bar than say a 4-bar, on those minute changes in pivot points. So one of the unique things about Sixfinity is that it is what I'd call a true 6-bar. By that I mean that the wheel and the brake are mounted to the seat stay, and that seat stay is controlled by the remaining linkages on the bike. And as a result of that, we can control our anti-squat and anti-rise to a greater degree than if it was just a 4-bar. So yeah, this would be one of our carbon mules that we had made. That's probably the first few. And you can really see the lower link reverse. You can watch that first move up and then start to move down afterwards.
Just the whole kinematics of it has changed. You know, the newer carbon mule is so much faster. It's a race bike. You know, it's a bike that you can haul ass on, really.
The bike feels like a bike going downhill. It's great when you finally get that where it's ready for the rider. Once they ride it, they kind of take it to that next level.
Still don't want people to see it just yet, so we got to be a little covert here.
The weight on this, I think, you can control yourself. And for me, so much better.
Yeah.
Brake way later.
Yeah, it's like better climbing traction, and you can stop it quicker because the back end just like bites in, and that's what it's sort of designed to do. The process in total sounds like it's like 5 or 6 years, so it's been a while coming, but for me, definitely the last sort of 18 months, I guess. We're 99% there. It's very close.
Jared does a great job of like really breaking it down as a racer. Stretch is really open too, to understanding and listening to that. And he has a respect for, you know, Jared, have seen him do everything that he's done in his career and kind of really listening to what the racers have to say. And on the other end of that too is Jared knows what Stretch has done and what's going on up there, and sometimes he'll put something together and it works.
Dude, Stretch he's the man pretty much. He's like, you know, we tell him what we want the bike to do and he just finds a way to do it, sort of thing. So it's pretty cool having someone like him. I just love, you know, trying to do my bit to like make the best bikes out there.
It's a very confidence-inspiring bike. The amount of traction that you have is really, honestly, at first tough to actually trust. And then you get to a point where you understand what's happening on the bike side, and you're able to then go that much faster because you do actually trust that traction.
I would never want to build a bike that has a ceiling. I would rather have people adapt to it a little bit, and they're going to find that the bike is not holding them back.
Get to a point where we're always learning and we're always improving. I think a big part of that is having great feedback from racers. So